The sky over Seoul turned dark at 3 in the afternoon. People on the streets stopped walking and looked up. The darkness was not from clouds. It was from something massive blocking the sun. A ship hung in the sky. It was bigger than anything humans had ever built. The metal surface reflected no light. It just floated there, silent and terrible. Within minutes, every city on Earth saw the same thing. Giant ships appeared over Tokyo, New York, London, Mumbai, and dozens of other places. Dae-ho Kim was under a car when it happened. He was a mechanic in a small shop in Busan. His hands were covered in grease. He heard his co-worker yell something. Then all the lights in the shop went out. The radio died. Even his phone stopped working. He rolled out from under the car and stood up. His co-worker was standing at the door, looking at the sky with his mouth open. Dae-ho walked over and looked up too. There was a ship there. A real alien ship. Before anyone could speak, every screen came back to life. The televisions in the shop turned on by themselves. Dae-ho's phone screen glowed. Even the old radio started making noise, but it was not normal broadcasts. It was the same thing everywhere. A face appeared on every screen. It was not quite human. The skin was pale blue and smooth like marble. The eyes were too large and completely black. The creature had no hair. When it spoke, the voice came from everywhere at once. "Humans of Earth," the voice said. It was female but cold. "I am Queen Ishara of the Velkari Empire. We control 47 star systems. Your world is nothing to us. We could destroy it without effort." Dae-ho felt his stomach turn to ice. This was really happening. Aliens were real, and they were threatening Earth. "However," the Queen continued, "we do not wish to destroy you. We want only one thing, one human. Give us this person, and your world will continue to exist. Refuse, and every living thing on your planet will die." A picture appeared next to the Queen's face. Dae-ho stared at it. He felt like someone had punched him in the chest. The picture was of him. It was his military ID photo from 3 years ago. "This is Corporal Dae-ho Kim," Queen Ishara said. "You have 72 hours to bring him to us. We will send coordinates for the exchange. If he does not arrive, your world ends." The screens went black. Power returned to normal. The ships remained in the sky. Dae-ho stood frozen. His co-worker turned to look at him. Recognition spread across the man's face. He had seen the picture. He knew. "Dae-ho?" his co-worker whispered. "That was you." Dae-ho did not answer. He could not think. Why would aliens want him? He was nobody. He fixed cars. He lived alone in a small apartment. He had no family except his younger sister Yoonji. He was not important. His phone started ringing. It was a number he did not recognize. He answered it with shaking hands. "Corporal Kim," a woman's voice said. "This is Captain Mirai Song of the Korean Space Defense Force. Stay where you are. We are coming to get you." The call ended. Dae-ho looked at his co-worker. The man was already backing away. Fear was in his eyes. Fear of Dae-ho, or fear of what would happen if Dae-ho stayed. Dae-ho ran. He did not know where to go. He just ran out of the shop and down the street. People were everywhere, looking at their phones, crying, shouting. Some people recognized him from the broadcast. They pointed. Some reached for him. Others moved away fast. He made it to his apartment building and ran up the stairs. His hands shook as he unlocked his door. Inside, his television was on. News channels showed his face over and over. They showed his address. They told everyone where to find him. There was a knock on his door, hard and fast. "Corporal Kim, this is Captain Song. Open the door. We are here to protect you." Dae-ho opened it. A woman in a military uniform stood there with 4 soldiers behind her. She was young, maybe 30 years old. Her face was serious but not angry. "We need to move you to a secure location," she said. "Now!" "Why do they want me?" Dae-ho asked. His voice sounded strange to his own ears. "We do not know," Captain Song said, "but we will find out. Come with us." They took him to a military base outside the city. The ride was fast. Captain Song sat across from him in the vehicle. She watched him carefully. "Tell me about your military service," she said. "There is nothing to tell," Daeho said. "I was a regular soldier. I did not see combat. I was discharged after an accident during training." "What kind of accident?" Daeho touched the back of his head without thinking. There was a small scar there. "They were testing a new neural interface device, something to help soldiers control drones better. It malfunctioned while I was hooked up to it. I was in the hospital for 2 weeks. After that, they said I could not serve anymore." Captain Song wrote something down. "Do you have any special abilities? Anything unusual happen after the accident?" "No," Daeho said. "I just get headaches sometimes. That is all." They arrived at the base. It was underground, deep below the surface. Daeho was taken to a small room with a bed and a chair. There was a television on the wall. It showed news from around the world. People were rioting. Some wanted to give Daeho to the aliens. Others wanted to fight. World leaders were meeting. Everyone was arguing. The ship still hung in the sky, waiting. A timer appeared on the news broadcast. 69 hours remaining. Daeho sat on the bed and put his head in his hands. He was just one person. How could his life be worth more than the whole world? It made no sense. But something bothered him. The Queen had not asked nicely. She had threatened. She had demanded. If she was so powerful, why not just take him? Why give humans a choice? The door opened. Captain Song came in with another man. He was younger, wearing civilian clothes. Daeho's heart jumped. "Hyunwoo?" he said. His childhood friend smiled sadly. "Hey, Daeho. I heard you got yourself into some trouble." Dr. Hyunwoo Choi was a xenobiologist. He studied alien life for the government. If anyone could help figure this out, it was him. "I have been looking at everything we know about the Velkari," Hyunwoo said, "and I found something strange, something that might explain why they want you." He held up a tablet with alien writing on it. "According to this," Hyunwoo said, "the Velkari rule their empire through psychic control. They can dominate minds, make people into slaves, and there is an old legend in their culture. A legend about someone who cannot be controlled." Daeho looked at the writing. He could not read it. "You think that is me?" he asked. "I think," Hyunwoo said quietly, "that accident 3 years ago changed you in ways no one understood. And somehow, the Velkari found out." Outside, the countdown continued. The ships waited. And somewhere in the darkness above, Queen Ishara watched. Hyunwoo spread papers across the table in the small underground room. Daeho looked at them but could not focus. His mind kept going back to the broadcast, to the ships in the sky, to the fact that the whole world was watching him. "Look at this," Hyunwoo said, pointing to a translation of Velkari text. "The Velkari have conquered 12 major civilizations in the last 500 years. Every single one fell without a real fight." Captain Song stood by the door with her arms crossed. "How is that possible?" she asked. "Some of those civilizations had technology beyond ours." "Because of psychic control," Hyunwoo explained. "The Velkari do not need weapons when they can simply take over minds. They make leaders surrender. They make soldiers lay down their weapons. They turn entire populations into slaves without firing a shot." Daeho felt sick. "And you think I am immune to this?" "The neural interface accident," Hyunwoo said. "It was not supposed to connect so deeply to your brain. When it malfunctioned, the doctor said it almost killed you, but maybe it did something else too. Maybe it changed how your brain works." Captain Song pushed off from the wall. "We need to test this. If Daeho really cannot be controlled, that changes everything." "How do we test it?" Daeho asked. "We do not have any Velkari here to try." "No," Hyunwoo said. But we have records of their psychic frequency. I can try to simulate it. He pulled out a strange device from his bag. It looked like a headband with wires attached. This will not control you, but it will let us see if your brain reacts differently than normal. Deho took the device. It was light in his hands. And if I am not immune? If this is all wrong? Then we find another answer, Captain Song said, but her voice did not sound confident. Deho put the device on his head. Hyunwoo typed something into his computer. A low hum filled the room. Deho felt nothing at first, then a pressure built behind his eyes. It hurt, not terribly, but enough to make him uncomfortable. Normal people would feel an urge right now, Hyunwoo said, an urge to obey commands. Do you feel anything like that? No, Deho said through the pain. Just a headache. Hyunwoo increased the power. The pain got worse. Deho gritted his teeth, but there was no voice in his head, no compulsion to do anything, just pain. That is it, Hyunwoo said, shutting it off. Your brain is rejecting the frequency completely. A normal person would be completely under control by now. Captain Song looked troubled. So the Velkari know Earth has someone who can resist them. That is why they want Deho specifically. But how did they find out? Deho asked, pulling off the device. I have never met an alien before today. Hyunwoo went pale. He typed something quickly into his computer. Oh no. What? Captain Song moved closer. 5 years ago, Hyunwoo said, we lost contact with the exploration ship Mugunghwa. It was commanded by astronaut Jin Woo Han. We thought it was destroyed. But what if the Velkari captured it instead? He pulled up a file. It showed a smiling man in a spacesuit. Jin Woo Han, national hero, lost in deep space. If they captured him, Hyunwoo continued, they would have tried to control him, and if he resisted even a little, they would know humans could potentially resist. Then they would look for more humans, test them, and they would have found records of the neural interface program, found records of Deho. Deho stared at the picture of Jin Woo Han. Is he still alive? I do not know, Hyunwoo said quietly. The door burst open. A general walked in with 3 other officers. His face was red and angry. Corporal Kim, the general said. His name tag read, Admiral Taeyang Park. Do you understand what is happening up there? People are tearing cities apart. Half the world wants to throw you to the aliens. The other half wants to protect you. Either way, people are dying. I know, Deho said. Then you understand what you need to do, Admiral Park said. Captain Song stepped between them. Sir, if the research is correct, surrendering Corporal Kim will not save us. The Velkari will invade anyway. You do not know that, the Admiral snapped. Yes, I do, Captain Song said. She pulled up files on her tablet. I have been reading the classified reports. Every civilization that gave the Velkari what they wanted was conquered within 10 years. Every single one. Admiral Park's jaw tightened. Then what do you suggest, Captain? We fight? With what? We have 12 military spacecraft. They have hundreds. We have no weapons that can touch their shields. We have nothing. We have him, Captain Song said, pointing to Deho. We have someone they cannot control. That terrifies them. Why else would they threaten to destroy a whole planet for one person? The room fell silent. Deho felt everyone's eyes on him. He was not a hero. He was not a soldier anymore. He was just a mechanic who had bad luck with experimental technology. There is something else, Hyunwoo said. He looked nervous. I found records of other civilizations that resisted. Not many, but a few. They all had one thing in common. Someone the Velkari could not control. And in every case, that person became a symbol, a focus for resistance. What happened to them? Deho asked. The Velkari destroyed those civilizations completely, Hyunwoo said. Nothing left. They were examples, warnings to others. Admiral Park pointed at Daeho. You see? If we fight, we all die. If we give them Kim, most of us live. As slaves, Captain Song said. As survivors, the Admiral shot back. Daeho stood up. His legs felt weak, but he stood anyway. I need to think. Alone. They left him in the room, all except Captain Song. She stayed by the door. You are planning to surrender yourself, she said. It was not a question. If it gives Earth a chance, yes, Daeho said. It will not work. They will kill you and invade anyway. Maybe, Daeho said, but doing nothing is not an option either. Captain Song walked over to him. She looked tired. I had a brother. He was on the Mugunghwa, communications officer. He died when we lost contact with the ship, or at least I thought he did. Now I do not know. I am sorry, Daeho said. My point is, she continued, I understand sacrifice. I understand doing what you think is right even when it hurts. But dying for nothing is not noble. It is just wasteful. Then tell me what to do, Daeho said. Tell me how one mechanic can fight an empire. She did not have an answer. Daeho's phone rang. It was his sister Yoonji. He had not spoken to her since the broadcast. He answered. Appa, she cried. Her voice was shaking. Where are you? I am scared. I am safe, Daeho lied. I am with the military. They are saying terrible things about you on the news. They are saying you should die to save everyone else. How can they say that? You are just one person. It is okay, Daeho said, even though it was not okay at all. Promise me you will not do anything stupid, Yoonji said. Promise me. Daeho closed his eyes. I promise. He hung up and looked at Captain Song. 48 hours left. She nodded. I know. If we are going to do something, Daeho said, we need to do it soon. Agreed, she said. But what? Hyunwoo burst back into the room. He was holding his tablet and breathing hard. I found something, an old Velkari text. It talks about the one who cannot be controlled. It says that person is not just immune, they are dangerous. Dangerous how? Captain Song asked. It does not say exactly, Hyunwoo admitted. But the text is a warning. It tells Velkari to eliminate such individuals immediately, not capture them, eliminate them. But Queen Ishara wants Daeho alive, Captain Song said slowly. She specifically said to bring him. Which means she wants something from him, Hyunwoo said. She wants to study him, figure out how his immunity works so she can overcome it. Daeho felt a chill run through him. Then giving myself up is exactly what she wants. Yes, Hyunwoo said. But maybe that gives us an opportunity. To do what? Captain Song asked. To learn about them while they are learning about us, Hyunwoo said. If Daeho goes up there, he might find a weakness, something we can use. That is suicide, Captain Song said flatly. It is a chance, Daeho said. The only one we have. Captain Song shook her head. No, there has to be another way. But outside, the countdown continued. 47 hours, 46, 45, and in the sky, the Velkari ships waited. The world was falling apart. Daeho watched it happen on the television screen in his room. 24 hours remained before Queen Ishara's deadline. Cities burned. People fought in the streets. Some carried signs demanding that Daeho be given to the aliens. Others carried signs saying he should be protected at all costs. President Nari Kang appeared on every channel. Her face looked older than it had a few days ago. Dark circles hung under her eyes. Citizens of Korea and people of Earth, she said. We face an impossible choice, one life or billions. The world's leaders have been in constant communication. We have consulted with military experts, scientists, and philosophers, and we have come to a decision. Daeho held his breath. We will honor Corporal Kim's right to choose, President Kang continued. If he wishes to surrender himself to save our world, We will arrange the exchange. If he chooses to stay, we will protect him with everything we have. The choice is his alone." The broadcast ended. Within seconds, Daiho's door opened. Captain Song came in with Yunwoo right behind her. "You cannot do this," she said immediately. "I know what you are thinking, but it is wrong." "It is my choice," Daiho said. "The president just said so." "She is playing politics," Captain Song snapped. "She is putting the decision on you so she does not have to be the one who condemned you to death." Hyunwoo sat down heavily. He had not slept. His eyes were red and his hands shook. "I have been reading everything we have about the Velkari. Every text, every intercepted communication, and Song is right. They are lying. They will take you and invade anyway." "You do not know that for sure," Daiho said. "Yes, I do," Hyunwoo said. He pulled up images on his tablet. "Look at this. This was the planet Cathara. They gave the Velkari what they wanted. 8 years later, their whole civilization was gone. This was Vornath. Same thing. 5 years after surrender, complete conquest." He showed image after image. Dead worlds, enslaved populations, destroyed cultures. "The pattern is clear," Hyunwoo said. "The Velkari demand surrender. They take what they want. Then they come back for the rest. They always do." "Then Earth is doomed no matter what I do," Daiho said quietly. "No," Captain Song said. "If they wanted Earth destroyed, it would be gone already. They want you specifically. That means you have value. Power, even." "I do not feel powerful," Daiho said. "I feel scared." "Good," Captain Song said. "Fear means you are smart enough to understand the situation, but fear should not make your choices." There was a knock on the door. Admiral Park entered with 2 guards. His face was hard. "Corporal Kim," he said formally, "have you made your decision?" Daiho looked at Captain Song. She shook her head slightly. He looked at Hyunwoo. His friend's eyes pleaded with him. Then he looked at the Admiral. "Yes," Daiho said, "I will go." Captain Song turned away. Hyunwoo closed his eyes. "A wise choice," Admiral Park said. "The exchange will happen in 6 hours. A shuttle will take you to the coordinates they provided." "I want to see my sister first," Daiho said. "Impossible," the Admiral said. "There is no time and security is too risky." "Then I do not go," Daiho said. He was surprised by the firmness in his own voice. Admiral Park's jaw clenched. "Fine. You have 1 hour." They brought Yoonji to the base. She was 19 years old and studying engineering at university. When she saw Daiho, she ran to him and hugged him hard. She was crying. "You cannot do this," she sobbed into his chest. "Please, there has to be another way." "There is not," Daiho said softly. "If I do nothing, everyone dies. At least this way, there is a chance." Yoonji pulled back and looked at him with red eyes. "You think they will keep their word? Aliens who threaten to kill an entire planet?" "I do not know," Daiho admitted, "but doing nothing is not an option." "Yes, it is," Yoonji said. "You can stay here. Let them protect you. Let someone else figure this out." "And if they cannot? If they fail?" "Then everyone dies because I was too afraid." Yoonji hit his chest with her fist. Not hard, just enough to make her point. "I am supposed to be the brave one in this family. You are supposed to be the smart one who thinks things through." Daiho smiled despite everything. "I did think it through. This is the only way." "It is not fair," Yoonji whispered. "You already gave years to the military. You already got hurt. Why does it have to be you again?" "Because the universe is not fair," Daiho said. "Because sometimes bad things happen to regular people, and all we can do is make the best choice we can with the time we have." They sat together for the rest of the hour. They did not talk much. They just sat close, the way they had when they were children and their parents had died. It was just the two of them then. It would be just Yoonji soon. When the guards came to take him, Yoonji held his hand tight. "If you die up there," she said, I will never forgive you. Then I will try very hard not to die, Daeho said. They took him to a shuttle bay. Captain Song was there in full uniform. Hyun-woo stood beside her. They both looked angry. I am going with you, Captain Song said, to make sure the exchange happens properly. The Admiral said it was just me, Daeho said. The Admiral can complain later, she replied. Hyun-woo stepped forward and pressed something into Daeho's hand. It was a small data chip. Everything we know about the Velkari is on this. Their language, their culture, their technology. If you get a chance to learn anything up there, you will need this. Thank you, Daeho said. He put the chip in his pocket. One more thing, Hyun-woo said quietly. Remember that you are not just a man. To them, you are something they cannot control. That scares them. Fear makes people stupid. Maybe it makes aliens stupid, too. They boarded the shuttle. It was small, designed for short trips. Captain Song piloted it herself. As they lifted off from Earth, Daeho looked down at the planet. It was beautiful, blue and green and covered in clouds. Somewhere down there, Yoonji was watching the sky. Coordinates received, Captain Song said. We are heading to the meeting point. The Velkari mothership came into view. It was impossibly large. It looked like a city floating in space. Daeho could see smaller ships moving around it like insects. They are hailing us, Captain Song said. She pressed a button. Queen Ishara's voice filled the shuttle. You have made the correct choice, human. Bring Daeho Kim to Docking Bay 7, alone. I am coming with him, Captain Song said. No, the Queen said. Only Kim, or the deal is void. Captain Song looked at Daeho. He nodded. It is okay. They docked. The bay doors opened. Inside was a long corridor lit by blue light. It looked cold and sterile. At the far end stood figures. They were not moving. Last chance to turn back, Captain Song said. I know, Daeho said. He took a deep breath and stood up. If I do not come back, tell Yoonji I love her. Tell her yourself when you return, Captain Song said, but her voice held no confidence. Daeho walked off the shuttle. The moment his feet touched the Velkari ship, the air changed. It felt heavier, colder. The doors behind him sealed shut. He was alone. He walked down the corridor toward the waiting figures. As he got closer, he saw they were humanoid but wrong. Their movements were too stiff. Their eyes were empty. They were alive but not really living. Welcome, Daeho Kim, a voice said. Not from the figures, from everywhere. It was Queen Ishara. You have just saved your world. For now. The figures grabbed his arms. They were strong. They dragged him deeper into the ship. Daeho did not resist. He had made his choice. Behind him, the shuttle disconnected and began its journey back to Earth. Captain Song watched it go, knowing she had just delivered a man to his death. On Earth, people watched the broadcast. They saw the shuttle leave the Velkari ship. They saw it return empty except for the pilot. Some people cheered. They were saved. Others cried. A man had just sacrificed himself for them all. Yoonji watched from the university. When she saw the empty shuttle return, she fell to her knees. Her brother was gone. In the Velkari mothership, Daeho was brought to a massive chamber. At the center sat Queen Ishara on a throne made of something that looked like crystal. She was beautiful and terrible at the same time. I have waited a long time to meet you, she said. You are the one who should not exist. Daeho said nothing. The queen smiled. It was not a kind smile. Soon, I will understand how you resist, and once I understand, I will make sure no one else can ever resist again. She raised her hand. Pain exploded in Daeho's head. He fell to his knees. But through the pain, one thought remained clear. He had come here for a reason, and somehow, he would find a way to fight back. Pain filled Daeho's skull. It was like the neural interface accident all over again, but worse. Queen Ishara stood before him, her hand raised, her black eyes focused entirely on him. He could feel her in his mind, not controlling him, just pushing, pressing, trying to find a way in. Then the pain stopped. The queen lowered her hand. Her face showed something Daeho had not expected. Confusion, maybe even fear. "Impossible," she whispered. She raised her hand again. The pain returned, sharper this time. Daeho gritted his teeth and stayed on his knees. He would not scream. He would not give her that. The pain stopped again. Queen Ishara took a step back. For a moment she looked uncertain. Then her face hardened into anger. 500 years, she said. 500 years I have ruled. Every species, every civilization, every single mind has bent to my will. How can you resist? Daeho found his voice. I do not know. Lies, the queen hissed. She gestured, and the empty-eyed figures grabbed Daeho again. They lifted him to his feet. Take him to the observation cells. I will study him until I understand. They dragged Daeho through corridors of blue metal. Other beings watched them pass. Some looked human. Others were clearly alien. But they all had the same empty eyes, all slaves to the queen's power. The cell they put him in was small, 3 walls of metal and 1 wall of transparent material like glass. Beyond it he could see into another cell, and in that cell was a man, a human man. Daeho pressed against the glass. The man sat on a bench, staring at nothing. He wore torn clothes that might have once been a uniform. His hair was long and unkempt. His face was thin. Hello? Daeho called out. The man did not respond. He just sat there with empty eyes. Daeho felt sick. He looked closer at the man's uniform. There was a patch on the shoulder, the Korean flag, and a name tag, barely readable. Han. Jinwoo, Daeho whispered. Jinwoo Han. The man did not move, did not blink. Hyunwoo had been right. The astronaut was alive, but whatever made him human was gone. The queen had taken it. Daeho sat down heavily. This was his future. This was what waited for him. The queen would break him eventually. Everyone broke. Hours passed, maybe days. There were no windows, no way to tell time. Food appeared through a slot in the wall. It tasted like nothing. Water came from a pipe. It was cold and metallic. Daeho took out the data chip Hyunwoo had given him. But there was nothing to plug it into. The cell was empty except for the bench. He held the chip in his hand and tried to think. If he was immune to psychic control, what did that mean? Why did it scare the queen? She was still more powerful, still in control of her empire. One resistant human should not matter, unless it did matter, unless resistance was contagious somehow. The wall suddenly became transparent on another side. Beyond it stood a different being, not human. It was tall, maybe 7 feet, with gray skin and 4 arms. It wore armor that looked old and battered. Its eyes were not empty like the others. They held awareness and rage. You are new, the creature said. Its voice was deep and rough. It spoke through a translator device. Yes, Daeho said. My name is Daeho. I am Vecra, the creature said. I was a general once, commander of the Tervani fleets. Then she caught me. It pointed toward the ceiling, toward where the queen must be. Now I am a toy, something she brings out when she wants to test her power. You can think? Daeho asked. You can still think for yourself? Sometimes, Vecra said. When she is not paying attention, when she is focused elsewhere. Her control is absolute but not infinite. She can only fully dominate so many minds at once. The rest of us exist in a fog, aware but unable to act. How long have you been here? 30 years, maybe more. Time loses meaning. 30 years. Daiho felt despair creep in. If a general with military training had not escaped in 30 years, what chance did a mechanic have? "Why are you different?" Vecra asked. "I can feel it." "She cannot hold you at all." "An accident," Daiho said. "Medical technology that changed my brain somehow." Vecra moved closer to the glass. "Then you are the most dangerous thing in this ship. Maybe in her entire empire." "I am just one man." "That is what I thought about myself," Vecra said. "One soldier. What difference could I make against an empire? But I was wrong. One person who cannot be controlled is a symbol, a possibility. If you exist, others might exist too, or might be created. She will kill me before that happens." "No," Vecra said. "She wants to understand you. That is her mistake. Study takes time, and time creates opportunities." Before Daiho could ask what he meant, Vecra's eyes went empty. The awareness faded. He stood still like a statue. The queen must have turned her attention back to him. Daiho was alone again. He looked at Jinwoo in the next cell. The astronaut had not moved, had not spoken. Was there anything left of the man inside? Or was he completely gone? Days passed. Daiho kept track by counting the meals. 9 meals. 3 days if they fed him 3 times a day. The queen came once each day. She tried different things: pain, fear, promises. Nothing worked. She could hurt him, but not control him. On the 4th day, something changed. Daiho woke to find his cell wall transparent on all sides. He could see dozens of other cells, hundreds of prisoners, different species, all with empty eyes, except one. In a cell far to the left, he saw someone looking back. A young being with purple skin and large eyes. It raised a hand slowly. A wave. Recognition. Daiho waved back. The transparent walls stayed clear after that. Daiho realized this was a test. The queen was showing him her power, showing him all the minds she controlled, all the people who had thought they could resist. But she had made a mistake. She had let them see each other. And Daiho had learned something from Vecra. Control was not absolute. When the queen's attention was divided, there were gaps, moments of clarity. He started watching the other prisoners carefully. Most never moved, but occasionally one would blink differently, turn their head, show some small sign of awareness. Vecra was one of them. When his eyes cleared, he would look at Daiho. Sometimes he would mouth words. Hard to read, but Daiho tried. "Wait," one word said. "Soon," said another. "Chance," said a third. Vecra was planning something. Something he could only communicate in brief moments of freedom. On the 7th day, Queen Ishara came to his cell personally. She looked tired, frustrated. "I have broken thousands of minds," she said. "Minds stronger and older than yours. But you remain closed to me. Why?" "I told you," Daiho said. "I do not know." "Your brain structure is different," she continued. "The neural pathways are scrambled, but that should not matter. My power touches the consciousness itself, not just the physical brain." "Maybe consciousness is more complicated than you think," Daiho said. The queen's eyes narrowed. "Are you mocking me?" "No," Daiho said honestly. "I am just trying to understand this myself." The queen studied him for a long moment. "You are not afraid of me." "Why?" "Because you are going to kill me or break me eventually," Daiho said. "Being afraid will not change that. So why waste energy on fear?" Something flickered across the queen's face. Respect? Curiosity? It was gone too quickly to tell. "I could make you watch as I destroy your planet," she said. "I could force you to see everyone you love die." "You could," Daiho agreed, "but you will not. Because you need to understand how I resist, and you cannot do that if I am broken by grief." The queen smiled. It was cold and dangerous. "You are more intelligent than I expected. Good. That will make breaking you more satisfying. She left. Daiho sat down on his bench. His hands were shaking. That conversation had been a risk, but he needed to keep the queen interested, keep her studying him instead of killing him. Every day he survived was another day Earth had to prepare. He looked across at Jinwoo. The astronaut still had not moved, still had not shown any sign of awareness. Daiho wondered if he was still in there somewhere, trapped, aware but unable to act. That night, Daiho was woken by a sound, metal scraping against metal. He sat up and looked around. The lights were dimmed, most of the cells were dark. But in Vecra's cell, something was happening. The warrior was moving, not with empty eyes, with purpose. He was doing something to the wall of his cell. Their eyes met. Vecra touched his chest, then pointed at Daiho. Then he pointed up, toward where the queen must be. Daiho understood. Vecra was not trying to escape. He was trying to get Daiho out, because Daiho was the one who could make a difference. The question was, what difference could a mechanic from Busan make against an empire of enslaved minds? He was about to find out. Vecra moved only when the lights dimmed. During the day, he stood motionless like all the other prisoners. But at night, when the queen presumably rested or focused her attention elsewhere, Vecra worked. He scratched at the wall of his cell with something small and metal. A piece of his old armor, maybe. Daiho watched and tried to understand the plan. Vecra could not escape himself. Even if he got out of his cell, the queen would take control of him again the moment she noticed. But Daiho was different. If he got out, he could move freely. The question was where to go and what to do. On the 10th day, Daiho finally managed to access the data chip Hyunwoo had given him. He found a small maintenance panel in his cell and pried it open. Inside were basic systems, power, air, light, and a data port. He plugged in the chip. Information flooded into the panel's small screen. Everything Hyunwoo had collected about the Velkari, their language, their technology, their psychic abilities, and there, buried in the technical specifications, was something important. The Velkari's psychic power operated on a specific frequency, like a radio signal. The queen broadcast her control across that frequency to all the minds in her empire. Daiho remembered the test Hyunwoo had done. The frequency caused him pain but could not control him. His brain rejected it completely. But what if that rejection could be amplified? What if he could disrupt the frequency somehow? He studied the ship's systems through the maintenance panel. The whole vessel was designed around psychic control. The queen could manipulate the ship through thought, life support, weapons, navigation, all connected to her mind. But there was something else, communication arrays. The queen used them to extend her control to the far reaches of her empire, ships, colonies, entire planets, all connected through a psychic network that spanned 47 star systems. An idea formed in Daiho's mind, a dangerous idea, maybe an impossible one, but it was something. On the 13th night, Vecra finally broke through his wall. The hole was small and he had to move silently. His eyes were clear. The queen was not watching. Vecra reached Daiho's cell and used the same piece of metal to work on that wall. It took hours. Daiho helped from his side, pulling away pieces as Vecra loosened them. "Why are you doing this?" Daiho whispered through the hole. "Because I have been a slave for 30 years, Vecra said. Because I want one moment of revenge before I die. Because you are the only chance any of us have. I am just one person. I cannot fight an empire." "You do not have to fight the empire," Vecra said. "You just have to break the chains. Show others it can be done." The hole grew large enough for Daiho to squeeze through. He emerged into Vecra's cell. The warrior looked at him with fierce eyes. "The communication center is 3 levels up," Vecra said. "I will take you there, But once the Queen realizes we are moving, she will take control of me again. When that happens, I will try to kill you. You must run." "I cannot leave you to die," Daiho said. "I died 30 years ago," Vecra replied. "This is just my body finally catching up." They moved through the ship. The corridors were empty at night. Most of the crew were in some kind of sleep state, standing in alcoves along the walls. Their eyes were closed, but not peaceful, just absent. As they passed one alcove, Daiho stopped. It was Jinwoo. The astronaut stood motionless, eyes closed. On impulse, Daiho reached out and touched his shoulder. "Jinwoo," he whispered, "I do not know if you can hear me, but I am going to try to help." There was no response. They kept moving. The ship was huge. It took nearly an hour to reach the communication center. Twice they had to hide when maintenance drones passed. Once they heard voices and had to wait in a storage room until they faded. Finally, they reached a large door. Vecra forced it open. Inside was a room filled with equipment, screens, controls, and at the center a large array that pulsed with blue light. This was how the Queen maintained control across the stars. "I do not know how to use this," Daiho said. "You do not need to," Vecra said. "You just need to be near it. Your resistance creates interference. I have felt it. When you are close, the fog in my mind lifts slightly." Daiho approached the array. Immediately, pain shot through his head. The same pain from Hyunwoo's test, but magnified 100 times. He fell to his knees. "It hurts," he gasped. "Good," Vecra said. "That means it is working. The pain is the frequency trying to control you and failing. Get closer." Daiho forced himself to stand. He walked toward the array. The pain became unbearable. His vision blurred. His ears rang. But he kept moving. He reached the array and placed his hands on it. The pain exploded into something beyond pain, beyond description. Every nerve in his body screamed. But something else happened too. Throughout the ship, prisoners began to wake. Not all of them, not even most. But some, the ones closest to the communication center, the ones whose minds were not completely broken. They opened their eyes, and for the first time in years, those eyes were clear. Jinwoo gasped and fell forward out of his alcove. He hit the floor hard. For a moment he just lay there, breathing. Then he pushed himself up on shaking arms. "Where?" he whispered. "Where am I?" In the communications center, alarms started blaring. The Queen knew. She was coming. Vecra suddenly went rigid. His eyes emptied. He turned toward Daiho with his hands raised to kill. But he moved slowly, fighting every step. "Run!" Vecra forced out through gritted teeth. "Whatever you are doing, it is working. More! Do more!" Daiho understood. The pain meant he was disrupting the psychic frequency. The more pain he endured, the more interference he created. He pressed himself against the array and screamed. The disruption spread like a wave through the ship. More prisoners woke. Some fell. Some stood in confusion. A few remembered who they were. And on planets across the Empire, beings suddenly felt something they had not felt in years. A gap, a moment of clarity. A single instant where the Queen's voice was not in their heads. It was not freedom. Not yet. But it was a reminder that freedom existed. Queen Ishara burst into the communication center with a dozen guards. Her face was twisted with rage. She raised her hand toward Daiho. The pain doubled, then tripled. Daiho's mind began to fracture under the assault. He was going to die, or break, maybe both. But before he fell, Vecra moved. Despite the Queen's control, despite 30 years of slavery, the warrior managed one last act of defiance. He threw himself at the guards, knocking them aside. "Now!" Vecra roared. "Do it now!" Daiho did not know what to do. He was barely conscious, but his hand found a control panel on the array. His fingers, moving almost on their own, pressed buttons, changed settings. amplified the signal. The array pulsed. The psychic frequency that connected the entire empire surged with interference. For just a moment, every enslaved mind in 47 star systems felt the chains loosen. Queen Ishara screamed. It was a sound of pure fury and, for the first time, fear. Daiho collapsed. The last thing he saw before darkness took him was Vecra standing over him, fighting the Queen's guards with empty eyes but a smile on his face, fighting even though his mind was not his own, fighting because somewhere deep inside he was still a warrior. And throughout the ship, prisoners who had been slaves for decades were remembering what it meant to be free. The revolution had begun, small, fragile, but real. And at its center was a mechanic from Busan who had never wanted to be a hero, who had just wanted to survive, but who had instead become the spark that would burn down an empire. When Daiho woke, he was back in his cell. His body ached, his head throbbed, but he was alive. Across from him, Jinwoo sat in his cell, and for the first time since Daiho had arrived, the astronaut looked back at him. "Thank you," Jinwoo mouthed silently. Daiho smiled despite the pain. It was a start. The Queen would come for him soon. She would try to kill him now, study or no study. But she had made a mistake. She had shown her slaves that resistance was possible. And you cannot put that idea back in a cage. Queen Ishara did not come to kill Daiho. She came to make an example of him. The transparent walls of his cell disappeared. Guards dragged him from his cell and through corridors filled with prisoners. All of them watched. All of them had empty eyes again. The Queen had reasserted control after Daiho's disruption, but he had seen the fear in her face. She knew what he had done. They brought him to a massive chamber. It was circular and huge, with cells lining the walls in tiers that reached up into darkness. Thousands of prisoners, maybe tens of thousands, all watching. At the center was a platform, and on that platform stood Queen Ishara. She looked different now, older somehow, tired. The effort of reclaiming control over so many minds at once had drained her. "Daiho Kim," she announced. Her voice echoed through the chamber. "You have committed a crime against the Velkari Empire. You have disrupted the peace. You have caused chaos and suffering." Daiho said nothing. The guards forced him to his knees on the platform. "I brought you here because I am merciful," the Queen continued. "I offered to spare your world. All you had to do was cooperate, be studied. Help me understand your resistance. Instead, you chose violence." "I chose freedom," Daiho said. The Queen's face twisted with anger. "There is no freedom. There is only order or chaos, control or destruction. I have brought peace to 47 star systems. I have ended wars, stopped suffering, made the universe rational and calm." "You made it a graveyard," Daiho said. "You took away everything that makes life worth living." "And what is that?" the Queen asked. "The freedom to hurt each other? To make mistakes? To waste potential?" "The freedom to choose," Daiho said, "even if we choose wrong." The Queen raised her hand. Pain filled Daiho's skull. He gritted his teeth and refused to scream. Not in front of all these prisoners. He would not give her that satisfaction. "You will die now," the Queen said. "Your death will be broadcast to every world in my empire, and they will see what happens to those who resist." But before she could strike the killing blow, something happened. One of the prisoners moved. Just slightly. A turn of the head. A blink that was not empty. The Queen noticed. Her concentration broke for just a fraction of a second. The pain in Daiho's head lessened. Another prisoner moved. Then another. Small movements. Tiny acts of defiance. But they were spreading through the chamber like ripples in water. The Queen's eyes widened. She tried to reassert control, forced the prisoners back into stillness, but it was taking effort, more effort than it should. Daiho understood. His presence was still creating interference. Just by being near the Queen, he was disrupting her power. The closer he got, the harder it was for her to maintain absolute control. "You see," Deho said, "you cannot hold them forever. Not all of them. Not while I am here." "Then I will kill you and the problem ends," the Queen snarled. "Will it?" Deho asked. "If I am proof that resistance is possible, what does my death prove? That you were threatened enough to kill me, that you were afraid." The Queen's hand trembled. Around the chamber, more prisoners were showing signs of awareness. Hundreds now. Their movements were still small, still controlled, but they were fighting. One of them was Jinwoo. Deho could see him in a cell on the second tier. The astronaut's hands were gripping the bars of his cell. His face was strained with effort. He was trying to speak. Jinwoo forced out. "He is right. We can resist. I did it once. I can do it again." The Queen whirled toward Jinwoo. Her power lashed out at him. Jinwoo screamed and fell. But before the Queen could crush him completely, Deho acted. He had been counting on this, on the Queen being distracted. He threw himself at her, not to hurt her, just to get close, to maximize the interference. His hands touched her arm. The pain in his head became unbearable again. But the Queen gasped. Her control flickered across the entire chamber. Thousands of prisoners suddenly felt the chains loosen. Guards rushed toward Deho. But some of them were moving slower than they should. Some of them were fighting the commands. The disruption was spreading. Then Vecra appeared. He had been standing in the crowd of guards, empty-eyed and still. But now he moved with purpose. He grabbed 2 guards and threw them aside. His face was a mask of concentration and rage, fighting every second to maintain control of his own body. "Deho!" Vecra roared. "The broadcast! She was going to broadcast this!" Deho understood immediately. The Queen was going to show his death to every world in her empire, which meant the communication systems were active, connected to every planet she controlled. If Deho could reach those systems, he could do more than disrupt one ship. He could disrupt the entire empire. "Stop him!" the Queen shrieked. But her voice had lost its absolute authority. Some of the guards obeyed, others hesitated. A few did nothing at all. Vecra fought like a demon. 4 guards, 6, 10. He threw them back with 4 arms that moved faster than human eyes could follow, but he was one warrior against hundreds. Blood ran down his gray skin. His movement slowed. Deho ran. He did not know where he was going, just away from the Queen, toward anything that looked like a control system. He found a panel, ripped it open. Inside were controls, screens, and a data port. He pulled out Hyunwoo's chip and jammed it into the port. Information flooded the screen. Ship systems, communication arrays, and something else. Something Hyunwoo must have hidden in the data. A program. A virus designed to amplify interference patterns. Deho activated it. The effect was immediate. The ship's communication arrays surged with power. The psychic frequency that connected the empire became flooded with noise, with disruption, with the pattern of Deho's resistant mind copied and amplified and broadcast to every planet the Velkari controlled. Throughout the empire, billions of enslaved minds felt the chains snap, not break, not yet, but snap, loosen, weaken. On a mining colony in the Tertian system, workers suddenly remembered they had names. On an agricultural world in the Kovath sector, farmers stopped their endless labor and looked up at the sky. On warships scattered across 47 star systems, soldiers began to question their orders. The revolution spread like fire. Queen Ishara screamed. It was not a sound of rage anymore. It was a sound of pain. Her empire was fracturing, her control was slipping, and she could feel every single mind that was pulling away from her. She turned toward Deho with murder in her black eyes. She raised both hands. Power gathered around her, enough power to kill him 100 times over, but she was too late. The damage was done. The idea had spread. And ideas once planted cannot be killed. Vecra threw himself between Deho and the Queen. The warrior took the full force of her attack. His body disintegrated into ash. But he died with a smile on his face, died free. Deho felt tears on his face. He had barely known the warrior, but Vecra had given everything to buy him these few precious minutes. The Queen advanced on Deho. She was done with study, done with mercy. She was going to tear him apart with her bare hands. But before she reached him, Jinwoo appeared. The astronaut had escaped his cell in the chaos. He was weak, barely able to stand. But he put himself between Deho and the Queen. "You will not take another one of us," Jinwoo said. His voice was hoarse from years of disuse. "Not today, not ever again." Other prisoners were breaking free now. Not all of them, but enough. They poured onto the platform, a wave of bodies between Deho and the Queen. The Queen's power lashed out. Prisoners fell screaming. But for each one that fell, 2 more took their place. They were not soldiers. Most were not even fighters. They were artists and engineers and farmers and children, all the species the Velkari had enslaved, all coming together in one moment of defiance. Deho felt hands grab him, friendly hands. They pulled him away from the Queen, away from the center of the fighting, toward an escape route. "Go!" Jinwoo shouted. "Finish what you started!" Deho wanted to stay, to help. But he understood. He was more valuable alive than dead. As long as he existed, the Empire could not fully restore control. He was a walking disruption, a symbol. They brought him to a shuttle bay. Not the one he had arrived in, a smaller one, hidden. There was a ship there, small and fast. "Get to Earth," one of the freed prisoners said. She was a young being with purple skin, the one who had waved to him days ago. "Tell them what happened here. Tell them we are fighting back." Deho hesitated. "Come with me." She shook her head. "This is our fight now. We have been slaves too long. Time to be warriors." The shuttle launched. Deho piloted it away from the mothership. Behind him, he could see explosions. The ship was tearing itself apart from the inside. The Queen was losing. But he also saw other ships, Velkari warships moving to respond. The Empire was vast. The Queen might lose this battle, but the war was just beginning. As he entered open space, a transmission came through. It was Captain Song. "Deho," she said. Her voice was shocked. "You are alive?" "Yes," Deho said. "And I am coming home, but Earth needs to prepare. The Empire is fracturing, but it is not defeated. They will come." "Then we will be ready," Captain Song said. Deho looked back one last time. The mothership was shrouded in explosions and fire. Somewhere in there, Vecra had died free. Jinwoo was fighting. Thousands of others were remembering what it meant to be themselves. The revolution had begun. And a mechanic from Busan had lit the match. Earth appeared in the viewport like a jewel against black velvet. Deho had been flying for 3 days. The small shuttle was not fast, but it was fast enough. Behind him, the Velkari Empire was collapsing into chaos. Ahead, home waited. Captain Song had sent coordinates to a military base in orbit around Earth. As Deho approached, he saw dozens of ships. Human ships. The Space Defense Force had been building while he was gone. Not enough to fight the Velkari fleet, but enough to show that Earth would not surrender easily. The shuttle docked. The airlock opened, and standing on the other side was Captain Song. Behind her was Hyunwoo, and behind him was Yoonji. Deho stepped through the airlock. Yoonji ran to him and wrapped her arms around him so tight he could barely breathe. She was crying. "You came back," she sobbed. "I thought you were dead." "I almost was," Deho said, "many times." Hyunwoo pulled him into a hug next. "The data chip. It worked?" "Better than you know," Deho said. "The virus you hid in there. It amplified my interference across the entire empire. Planets are rebelling. Species are remembering freedom. I know, Hyun-woo said. We have been monitoring transmissions. The Empire's fracturing. But the Queen still controls many systems, and her fleet is moving toward Earth. Captain Song stepped forward. She looked tired, but determined. Admiral Park wants to see you immediately. The world leaders are convening. They want to know what you learned up there. They brought Daeho to a conference room. It was filled with generals and politicians. President Kang sat at the head of the table. Admiral Park stood beside her. They all turned to look at Daeho as he entered. Corporal Kim, President Kang said, you have done something extraordinary. You survived, and more than that, you struck a blow against an empire that seemed invincible. I did not do it alone, Daeho said. There was a warrior named Vekra. He sacrificed himself, and an astronaut named Jin-Woo Han. He stayed behind to fight, and thousands of others whose names I do not know. They are the heroes. Nevertheless, the president continued, you are the symbol, the proof that the Velkari can be resisted. That makes you valuable to Earth, and dangerous to them. Admiral Park stepped forward. The Velkari fleet is 6 days away. Intelligence suggests the Queen herself is leading them. She wants Earth destroyed, wants you dead. This will not be a negotiation, it will be an extermination. Can we fight them? Daeho asked. No, the Admiral said bluntly. We have 40 ships, they have 400. We have conventional weapons. They have technology centuries beyond ours. In a straight fight, we lose. Then what do we do? Yoonji asked. She had insisted on being present. Captain Song had allowed it. Daeho looked at the faces around the table. They were all looking at him, waiting for an answer. He was not a soldier, not a leader. He was just a mechanic who had survived longer than he should have. But he had learned something on the Velkari ship. He had learned that resistance was not about winning. It was about refusing to give up, about showing others it could be done. We broadcast, Daeho said. Everyone stared at him. The Queen is coming here for me, Daeho continued. She wants to kill me publicly, to show her empire that resistance is futile. But we can turn that against her. We can broadcast what really happened. Show every enslaved species that their chains can be broken. How? President Kang asked. I will go to meet her, Daeho said. One ship, just me. And Captain Song if she is willing. I am, Song said immediately. You will use me as bait, Daeho continued. But while the Queen is focused on me, we broadcast everything. My story, what I saw on her ship, the proof that her power is not absolute. We send it to every planet in her empire. She will kill you, Admiral Park said. Probably, Daeho agreed. But the message will survive, and messages are harder to kill than people. The room fell silent. President Kong looked at her advisors, then back at Daeho. You have already sacrificed so much, she said. We cannot ask you to do this. You are not asking, Daeho said. I am offering. Yoonji grabbed his arm. No, you already went once. You already survived. Let someone else do this. There is no one else, Daeho said gently. The Queen wants me specifically. And my presence disrupts her power. That gives Earth a chance. A chance to watch you die, Yoonji said bitterly. Daeho pulled his sister close. Listen to me. If I die fighting for something that matters. That is more than most people get. Yoonji was crying again, but she nodded. She understood. She did not like it, but she understood. They spent the next 6 days preparing. Hyun-woo helped Daeho record everything he had seen. Every detail of the Velkari ship, every moment of the rebellion, every proof that the Empire could fall. Captain Song prepared a ship, small and fast, equipped with the most powerful communication array Earth could build. When they broadcast, it would reach across the stars. On the 6th day, the Velkari fleet arrived. 400 ships filled the space around Earth. And at the center was the mothership. damaged from the rebellion, but still massive, still terrible. Queen Ishara's voice filled every communication channel. Humans, you have harbored a criminal. Daeho Kim has committed acts of terrorism against the Velkari Empire. Surrender him now, or face extinction. Daeho and Captain Song launched in their small ship. As they approached the fleet, dozens of Velkari ships moved to intercept them. But they did not fire. The Queen wanted Daeho alive. One last time. "You ready for this?" Captain Song asked. "No," Daeho said honestly. "But that has never stopped me before." They were brought aboard the mothership, the same docking bay as before, but this time the corridors were damaged, scorch marks on the walls, bodies of the fallen. The rebellion had cost the Queen dearly. They were brought to the throne room. Queen Ishara sat waiting. She looked worse than before, older, weaker. Her skin was pale and her eyes were sunken. Maintaining control over her fracturing empire was killing her. "Daeho Kim," she said. Her voice was tired but still sharp with hatred. "You have destroyed everything I built. 400 years of peace, of order, gone because one small human refused to accept his place." "I freed slaves," Daeho said. "I helped people remember who they were." "You brought chaos," the Queen spat. "Do you know how many have died in your rebellions? Millions. All that blood is on your hands." "No," Daeho said. "That blood is on yours. You enslaved them. You took away their freedom. I just reminded them it existed." The Queen stood. "I am going to kill you now. But first, I want you to see what you have done. I want you to see your precious earth burn." She gestured. The walls of the throne room became transparent. Outside, the Velkari fleet was forming up, weapons charging, preparing to reduce Earth to dust. But Daeho smiled. Because the communication array was active, the broadcast had begun. Everything he had recorded, everything he had witnessed, it was being transmitted to every planet in the Empire. "You think I am afraid?" Daeho asked. "You think death scares me? I have already won. Because everyone in your empire now knows the truth. They know you can be beaten." The Queen's face twisted with rage. She raised her hand. Power gathered around her, enough to tear Daeho apart atom by atom. But before she could strike, something happened. Her fleet began firing, not at Earth, at each other. The Queen gasped. Her control was slipping. Across the fleet, crews were rebelling. Ships that had been slaves to her will were suddenly acting independently. Some were fleeing. Others were turning on the loyalist ships. The Empire was tearing itself apart. "What have you done?" the Queen whispered. "I told them the truth," Daeho said. "That freedom is possible, that you are not invincible, that one person can make a difference." The Queen screamed and unleashed her power. But it was not directed at Daeho. It was a desperate attempt to regain control of her fleet, to hold her empire together by force of will alone. Captain Song grabbed Daeho. "We need to go. Now." They ran. Behind them, the Queen was pouring all her power into maintaining control. She did not even notice them leaving. She was too busy trying to hold together an empire that was breaking apart. They made it back to their ship and launched. As they flew away from the mothership, Daeho looked back. He expected to see the Velkari ships pursuing. Instead, he saw them breaking formation. Some ships were exploding as crews fought for control. Others were fleeing to different corners of the Empire. The fleet was dissolving. "Did we win?" Captain Song asked. "I do not know," Daeho said, "but we survived, and sometimes that is enough." They returned to Earth as heroes, but Daeho refused any parades or medals. He just wanted to go home, back to Busan, back to his small apartment, back to being a mechanic. But the universe had other plans. Messages started arriving from across the Empire, from freed slaves, from rebelling planets, from species that were remembering how to be themselves. They all said the same thing: "Thank you. Thank you for showing us resistance was possible. Thank you for giving us hope. Daiho worked with Hyunwoo to establish the Free Mind Initiative. They shared everything they had learned about resisting psychic control. They helped freed planets establish defenses. They trained others to recognize and resist manipulation. Captain Song led the New Earth Defense Coalition, an alliance of freed worlds, united not by conquest, but by choice, building something better than the Empire had ever been. Yoonji joined the Xenobiological Corps. She studied the freed populations, helped them heal from generations of slavery, and she never stopped being proud of her brother. 3 months after the rebellion, Daiho received a message. It was from Jinwoo. The astronaut had survived. He was leading the resistance on the former Velkari homeworld. You taught us to fight, Jinwoo's message said. Now we are teaching others. The Empire is broken. The Queen is dead. She burned herself out trying to hold too many minds at once. What remains of her forces have scattered. Some planets are free. Others are still fighting. But we are winning. Daiho read the message in his small apartment in Busan. He looked out the window at the city, at the normal people living normal lives. They did not know how close they had come to extinction. And that was okay. That was good, even. Because the best victory was the one where people could go back to living their lives, where they did not have to be heroes, where they could just be free. A new message appeared. This one was from a distant world. A species Daiho had never heard of. They had just broken free from Velkari control. They were asking for help, for guidance. Daiho smiled. His work was not done. It would never be done. Freedom was not something you won once and kept forever. It was something you had to choose. Every day. Again and again. He messaged back, "We will help. Tell us what you need." Outside, the sun was setting over Busan. Somewhere in the stars, former slaves were becoming free beings again. Somewhere in the galaxy, a revolution was spreading. And at the center of it all was a mechanic from Earth. A man who had never wanted to be special, who had just wanted to survive, but who had instead become the spark that lit a fire across 47 star systems. Not because he was stronger than everyone else, not because he was smarter or braver or better, but because he had refused to give up, because he had shown others that resistance was possible, because he had proven that one person, one simple act of defiance, could change everything. That was humanity's real strength. Not technology or weapons or power, just the stubborn refusal to stay down, the determination to stand up no matter how many times you fall. The belief that freedom was worth fighting for. That was why humanity mattered. Why they had survived. Why they would keep surviving. Because they were too damn stubborn to do anything else.